Christmas 2019, and it is time to go to New Zealand. Good morning. It's a beautiful day in Auckland. Well, eventually it started out very foggy and very rainy. I'm going to wander out today and explore Auckland a little bit. I'm not really much of a city traveller. I much prefer getting out and seeing the actual real place rather than, kind of hanging around in cities, because I find cities, they're very, very similar wherever you go. I don't know this area at all, and I've not been to New Zealand before, so I'm going to give New Zealand a couple of days to see what happens. So come along, let's see what's out there. So this is the tower at the Sky City complex, the Sky Tower. It's much the same as the one in Toronto or Sydney. They're all very similar, aren't they? But for $32, the views are certainly worth it, I think. Today, the road trip starts. The plan is to drive up to Cathedral Cove, which is kind of the top right. I'll point it out on the map here. Looked beautiful. There's some beautiful beaches and some rock formations around that are probably worth looking at from what I can tell. Let's go have a look at Cathedral Cove. So Cathedral Cove was well worth the effort. It was beautiful down there. One thing to be aware of is there is a free car park, but it's a hell of a trek from where the actual entrance to the path that takes you down to the cove. There is a free bus there. If you don't mind paying, if you drive up towards the actual main entrance to the path, you'll find some houses sell parking spaces on their driveways and their lawns, and that's what we did, which made it a hell of a lot easier. The walk down to the cove takes a little while. It's quite hilly as well, but the trip down there was spectacular, and it was really worth the effort. There were a lot of people there, unfortunately. Perhaps I could have been there a bit earlier to try and avoid the crowds, but hey, we weren't to know. It's well worth checking out, however, and it was kind of the New Zealand that I was hoping for. It's dramatic and it's beautiful, and in some respects kind of reminded me of Thailand a little bit. Let's go and have a look at some of the photos from there. So it's actually the 31st of December, so it's New Year's Eve. And the plan today is to head up and have a look at a couple of beaches, and also perhaps later have a look at Hot Water Beach. Now that you have to go down to when the tides are out, and I think the tide out time today is around 5 p.m. So that will depend on how busy it is and all that sort of stuff. That's the thing with a lot of tourist attractions. They look amazing on Instagram, but actually when you turn up, you'll find that there's thousands of people there, and that's kind of what I'm expecting for Hot Water Beach. But I'm gonna go check it out anyway, because you can't come up here without seeing that. So today I'm at the Hobbiton movie set. I've been looking forward to this for the whole trip. It's not the only reason I've come to New Zealand, but it's not far off. Anyway, I've not long got here, just had some coffee, and now we're going to go hit the set and see what it's like. Really looking forward to this. Well, I absolutely loved Hobbiton today. It was brilliant. It was everything I expected and more. The whole thing took maybe 2.25, 2.5 hours. The tour itself was an hour and 45, and it basically takes you all the way through the Hobbiton set, right the way up to Bilbo's place and round to Sam's house, and also where they had the party and all that sort of stuff. I loved every moment. It was fantastic and very much worth the money. Anyway, check below. I'll do a full review of the Hobbiton, and I'll include a little bit more footage than I have done here as well. The thing I find a bit odd about this whole place, by the way, apart from this bit, is there's a smell of sewage. But of course what it is, it's the hot volcanic springs, and I'm totally taking my mind off this right now. I do not like. I think there's a bit of poo coming out. So I'm at some park at Rotorua, and I think we found the source of the smell. It absolutely reeks. It almost smells like sewage, and then it occurred to me it's actually sulphur, I think. So there's lots of thermal springs and all kinds of stuff around here, so I'm going to go have a look at them. You'll have to excuse the bright red face. Somebody forgot to put sun cream on this morning. Now, last night I was staying here. Tonight I'm staying here. And on the way I've done some pretty cool stuff. So the first thing that's worth seeing is this place. Now what this is, it's essentially a set of rapids after a dam. So at certain times of the day, they open the sluice gates, flooding the valley below, and it's pretty spectacular. Further upstream from there is this place. And what that is essentially a big set of rapids which takes advantage of all that water flowing down from the dam, and again it looks pretty spectacular. Now I did have quite a bit of footage from a place called the Craters of the Moon. Now I've actually removed that in preference for the footage from this place. I'm not going to attempt to say any of these places because I'm going to mess them up. Anyway, it's a geothermal park. It's about 50 kilometers northeast-ish of Craters of the Moon. A little bit more expensive, I think at about $30 to get in compared to about $8 for Crater of the Moon. But it's a lot better. It took about 2 hours to do, hence the sunburnt face. And the stuff you get to see, it's really interesting if you're interested in that kind of geothermal type of stuff. A lot more interesting than Craters of the Moon, but of course it's a bit further out and a little bit more expensive. So this is Mount Eden. I got told if I was going to come to Auckland, I had to come up here, and they were absolutely right. The views from up here are spectacular and well worth the effort. Not much parking, however, so if you don't manage to get a parking space, it's a bit of a trek up the hill, but I think it's worth it. What a few weeks it has been. I've got to see so many cool things driving around the North Island here, and I have to say I've completely fallen for the place. It is just stunning. One of the things I found that was particularly cool is because it's not particularly large, you get to see an awful lot in your days. Now if you jump to the end of this video, or the time code I'll stick here, I'll give you a breakdown of the route that I used. I've managed to find a book with the GPS locations of all of the Lord of the Rings filming locations, so I have to come back because I totally want to do that. I'm going to sign off now. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have, give it a like and perhaps hit that subscription button. Any comments or any questions, drop it in the section below and I'll try and answer them for you. What you're looking at here is the layout of the road trip that I did. Now it started and ended in Auckland and was done over a period of about 8 days. You'll see that most of my time was spent to the right of the map rather than the left, and it wasn't particularly heavily planned. A lot of the time it was just seeing tourist signs at the side of the road and heading off to see them. There were a few key things that I wanted to see, like the rapids for example and the thermal park, but some of the other things were basically just because they were spotted on the way. It started then with a trip from Auckland to Cathedral Cove. Hot Water Beach is also fairly close to Cathedral Cove, so you can do them both at the same time. Just bear in mind that you need to get to Hot Water Beach at the right time because you need to get there when the tide's out. For New Year's Eve I stayed in that place called Tairua. Beautiful little town. Place I had was right on the water and it got a great view of the fireworks, so quite impressed with that place there. Then it was on to the Hobbiton movie set tour, which is about a 2.5 hour drive from Tairua. Now bear in mind you can get there a little bit quicker if you go inland, but I wanted to go along the coast just to keep an eye out for stuff. After the Hobbiton movie set tour, it was down to Rotorua. Now I spent most of the time in Rotorua and Taupo. So many interesting things to do there. Rotorua was a place that smelled, by the way, which took a little while to work out that it was the thermal springs. Beautiful town, right on the water, probably worth spending some time there. Some great bars and restaurants, all that sort of stuff. The Redwood Tree Walk is also there as well. There's not just the tree walk, there's lots of mountain bike paths and some walking tracks and all kinds of things around there. South of there was Kerosene Creek. Now Kerosene Creek was the running river that was actually quite hot. I thought it was quite interesting. South of that again is the thermal park. I also went to the one called Craters of the Moon. I'd thoroughly recommend the Waiotarapu Thermal Park over the Craters of the Moon. It was just a lot more interesting. It took about 2 hours to do, and the stuff you saw, well, I just thought it was really interesting anyway. South of there again is the Aratiatia Rapids. No idea how to say these names. Now what there is there is essentially a dam that they open the sluice gates and flood the valley below. If you get your timing right, and it is on their website by the way, you can turn up there and they'll open the floodgates and you get to watch it happen. It's really quite entertaining. Further south from there again is Hooker Falls, which if you time it again for these sluice gates opening, it is worth going to see. It's quite spectacular. So after spending that time in Taupo, it was time to start heading back towards Auckland. Now, I did want to see some things on the way back from Auckland, and one of the things I wanted to see was the Maricopa Falls. That is about a 2.5 hour drive from Taupo. It was well worth doing. I love Border Falls, and it's really accessible as well. It's no more than about 5 or 10 minutes from the road. So if you're going past there, it's definitely worth the diversion. After that then, it was a drive up to Raglan, which I think took about 2 hours or so. I got to spend a few days in Raglan. The beaches around there are pretty spectacular, very heavy black volcanic sand, and it was a good place to chill out before heading back to Auckland. I took some time to head up to the Manukau Heads, I think it's called. There's a lighthouse up there, and also the view over the bay there, which you can see on the map, is pretty spectacular and worth the effort. And then it was just back into Auckland, which is maybe another 90 minutes.